But we're going to start things off with, Anna already gave a bit of an intro to our first speaker, who will be speaking about a topic, learn as if you were to live forever. So let's give a warm welcome to our first speaker, Ursula Koski, who is the CTO for Nordic Partners at Amazon Web Services, and who is also the EMEA lead for Glamazon. And I'll let you tell more about that.
Awesome.
Round of applause.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Good morning. I have a confession to make, and that is, I stand on stage quite a lot, but I always get a bit of nervous standing here, and it's a good thing. So trust me, it's always good to have that bit of a ooh. So, good morning, RIGA Tech Girls community. Awesome work with the mentoring programs. It's fantastic. It's one of the most important things you can do for the career building for future leaders. So, like you heard, I'm currently serving as the CTO for Amazon Web Services in the Nordics. I've been working in tech for 28 years. I'm trying to explain I'm about 30 years old. My teenagers look at me like, yeah. So, I've had the privilege to witness a lot of the challenges and profound changes in this space. And today I want to take you on a journey and talk about the career and the things I've seen, also from a personal side, and look at those changes from that lens. So when I was invited to speak, I was thinking about what could I share? So what's the most valuable skill that I have or I have developed over my career? And the answer is actually quite clear, and that is lifelong learning. So understanding how you learn, so what's your personal capability of learning and adjusting to changes? And I decided to take certain things and anecdotes from across my career, across my journey, personal and business-wise, and talk to you through those. And the quote behind me is actually related or attributed to Mahatma Gandhi, and it is live as you were to live forever. So live as you were to die tomorrow, learn as if you were to live forever. And the quote is actually much older than that, than Gandhi. So it's stemming from like old Indian scriptures, and it's from a book called The Wisdom of Life. So to me, this philosophy actually represents a lot of the things of the building blocks that I've seen valuable in my life. It doesn't matter if you're building a business, having your startup, or innovating completely new tech, or looking at your personal relationships. It is about how you navigate changes and how do you learn. So, as a person, I've always been quite curious, sometimes maybe too much even, and that curiosity has led me to a lot of the opportunities that I've gotten throughout my career. And that led me to a career that I wanted to have. So I didn't have a ready-made path, and we know that we don't necessarily have that. We don't have a ready-made path for us as women in tech. We need to build one. So it's my ownership to actually build that career path and also support others to get their opportunities. And we do this by experimentation. So we try and fail, and we need to step outside of our comfort zone very often than not. Did all this come naturally to me? Try and fail, experiment, etc. No, not at all. I wasn't the type of person who wanted to fail. I want to be successful always. So experimentation is still the essence of process of trial and error. So throughout my professional life, it took me a long while to get to the realization that we do have to fail in order to be successful. So nobody has the perfect roadmap. There will never be one, but we can build one. So there will be twists and turns and changes, and life will throw all kinds of curveballs your way. But every time you fail, you will learn. You will find a way to be successful, and it will evolve. And this philosophy, as such, doesn't apply only to the boardrooms. It's the whole life. It's the personal lives also. So what's your willingness to learn in your personal life? And how can you be dynamic or adaptive? And how do you stay grounded? So this all turns what you're doing in your business life into something that you can be passionate about. And that passion turns into purpose in your business. So today, I want to start off with a personal story. So I'm standing in front of you, but if you look at the statistics, I shouldn't be. It's not about just being a female with a long tech career. It's having certain odds that may have been stacked against you. And I had some odds that were stacked against me from the beginning. And let's talk about how to overcome those and what are the key things that will impact that. So I will share a story about my background. So I was born in a family that from the surface would look like a very successful one. So our family had hotels, restaurants, bars, you name it, whatever. We had a house as big as a mansion, big scary dogs, all the external niceties, all the financial signs of success. But beneath the surface, there was a different reality. There was all kinds of physical and mental abuse, substance abuse, and eventually it all collapsed. So everything that never was collapsed. So at a young age, I was placed in foster care, and I moved through a lot of homes and shelters. But in the midst of all these changes and all the turmoil, when the material possessions were taken away, they were replaced with one person that made a difference. So there was one person who actually believed in me and who cared and saw my potential. And that person became the difference in my journey in the beginning. She also became the reason for me to believe in myself. So we didn't necessarily have much in the terms of money, but we were rich in other ways, with love, support, and trust. So she also built faith in me that I could learn anything that I set my mind to. So meaning, if you want to become a doctor, become a doctor. If you want to be a researcher, you can. If you want to be an artist, wonderful. There's only one thing that was asked from me is the question, will you be happy? Will you be truly happy doing what you do? And that fueled my journey onwards. Did the society around me necessarily support that journey? Not necessarily so. So the system didn't expect much from me. So I think I was 11 or 12. I was told very vividly, kids like you have a certain roadmap. So there are certain things you should avoid. Don't make babies before you're 16. Do your basic education, don't do drugs. That was it, that was the path. And I wholeheartedly disagreed. No, because of that one person. So I was fortunate enough to actually found certain skills already quite early in life. And that passion was for technology. Not just as a career path, but it was a way for me to explain the world to myself. It was freedom to me. But even then, I actually faced certain challenges. I haven't found the learning style of my brain. How do I learn? How do I build skill sets? So I wasn't very good at learning. So talent alone isn't enough. So I knew I needed guidance. But fortunately, I had something that was game-changing, and that was my teachers. I had brilliant teachers and also mentors. And they saw me. They also saw my struggle. So one day, my IT and math teacher sat me down and were like, "You're really smart, but..." Okay. So they had a reality check with me. And they said that without commitment to learn and to improve my skill set, I wouldn't get very far. Because what I was really good at was the fact that I was really versed in different technology options, but I didn't develop myself. So they offered something. They said, "We know you're good, you could be better." So they offered to create a learning program for me. And they said, "It's not about the grades. You have all the grades already, but it's about the continuous progress." And that program was actually the spark that kicked off much larger change in me. And that was towards my career. And that accelerated my learning, put me on a path to unlock a lot more from my capacity. But there was another challenge, one that might be a bit harder to believe, but I was extremely introverted. And I was also painfully shy. I know many of you think like, oh, she's standing on a stage, so she's really shy. But in essence, I was so introverted that I couldn't share even when I knew that I was right about something. So how can she be shy? So as a young adult, I struggled a lot with anxiety, with social settings, and I had something that was extreme perfectionism. So I needed to be right before I opened my mouth. So the fear of making mistakes, being wrong, was the most horrible thing that could ever happen to me. So I was silent in situations where I knew I had the answer, but I could not bring myself to speak up. And I'm talking about the Finnish way of being silent, so I'm originally Finnish, so being silent on steroids, basically. So now it's almost ironic, because now in this point in my career, I understand that in order to succeed, you basically have to embrace failure. Without failure, you can't find your capacity. So you can't win the race without leaving the starting line. And you certainly can't share your views if you don't open your mouth. But it took me years to unlock a big part of my potential, also the way that I learn and how I learn. And that meant I had to find a way to manage my anxiety and to realize that the mistakes or failures that I felt were so horrible, they were just stepping stones. So they are the learning curve. So I'm still improving on this every day. At Amazon, we talk about something called sharpening the saw. And that means that you need to make a habit of improving your skill set each and every day. We learn each and every day. We improve each and every day. So let's talk about career a bit. So let me take you on a journey. I got my first significant career step very early on. So I know I'm lucky. So I was 18. Yes, I know it's very young to start your career. And it wasn't a result of being extraordinarily gifted or having everything figured out, not at all. So it came down to something much more concrete. And it came to reliability. So doing what you promised to do when you are planning to do it and communicating that. For example, being on time. So I was offered a chance to step into the world of academia and actually teaching at local universities and vocational institutes. There was a shortage of tech staff due to the acceleration of technology around us. So there was no promises made, so no guaranteed hours, nothing. They said, be here on time in the mornings, and if we see that we need somebody, you can have your chance. So every morning, 7 a.m., I was there, seeing if there was the opportunity to learn something new. And I covered all and everything. So basically from my favorite topics, from programming or hardware, to topics like far outside my comfort zone. For example, architectural drawing, or teaching senior citizens to use technology. So I learned on the job. And as I went along, eventually that led to a permanent role. I was really fortunate to be offered a permanent role at the age of 20. And I landed something that I didn't expect, and that was a tenure. So what is the lesson here is that sometimes the opportunity doesn't come as neatly packaged offer. So you have to show up, you have to be reliable, and you have to have the consistency, and that will eventually pay off. So that was my first stepping stone. Let's fast forward. So once we got to the 2000s, I got a call from Siemens for a position. And that position came with the side of education program, a training program that I could not have access to without the sponsorship of a big company. And my colleagues at the time in the education department said, you have lost your mind, you have a tenure, you have a lifetime position. Why would you leave? What's wrong with you? But I knew that I had to take that opportunity, take that leap in order to grow. So I let go of something that was guaranteed, the security of the role, and I embraced the unknown. And that first leap, let me tell you, it feels like jumping out of an airplane without a parachute. So you feel like you're free falling, but what I've learned is that in those moments of uncertainty, that is when you truly grow. And the next leaps will be a bit easier, not perfectly easy. They are still daunting, but they become a bit more familiar. So I got into tech industry, and was it all stable, perfect, and beautiful when I got to Siemens, and were all the projects successful? Not at all. It was a really developing space. We had changes happening around us that shook us to our core. On September 11th, 2001, when the Twin Towers fell, I got the experience of what it's like to be called home from a global company, from a global role, when you have been kind of navigating your nice career and then something drastic happens. So when you travel back from your adventures and you think about, did all my team members make it out alive? So we lost a lot of the sense of safety during those days, and maybe some of the naivety that we had. So from Siemens, I eventually moved forward as a startup founder with a few really brilliant minds. We were also very idealistic. We were going to build something so great that the world had never seen something like that. It was groundbreaking. We were ahead of our time, and we didn't have enough capital. So very familiar story that way. And we had something in our hands that was amazing, but we couldn't get to the end result. From the startup life, I actually moved into building a tech business around education, also partner business for big tech companies. And the leaps kept coming, and each opportunity taught me something new. So the education was following me along the way. And every step became a bit more challenging, a bit more demanding. Let's fast forward a bit on the journey to 2010 and 11. So I found myself in Silicon Valley more often than not, and I had the privilege to be a part of one of the biggest tech mergers in the industry. That was the merger between Sun Microsystems and Oracle. I also started negotiating a new role, and that new role was for a product manager role in one of my favorite technologies. That was the real application clusters for Oracle databases. I was on fire, I just absolutely enjoyed it. I thought I had the culmination of everything I had been working towards. But then something happens. Life had other plans. So at the beginning of 2012, I was on my way to speak in a conference in Budapest. About 4 hours before my flight, my phone rang. And it was a call that would change my life quite a bit. It would shift my focus. And the voice on the other end was a first responder, and that one person that had believed in me, who had actually stood by me when nobody else did, had collapsed on the street and was being rushed to the hospital. So in a matter of days, my life shifted from being that globetrotter that had a fast career and a professional career to becoming a caregiver. And that person who was my rock needed me. And my world was shifting in a fundamental way. So then I had a question inside myself. Yes, I'm a professional, yes, I'm in tech, but do I have that caregiver role inside of me? Can I learn that? Can I become that? So in a matter of weeks, it became clear that this will be taking longer than just some weeks. And we had a kind of a very challenging times ahead. So the diagnosis was quite cruel, so it was Alzheimer's, and it's a cruel disease. So one day your loved ones are fully present, the other next day they may be teleported back somewhere in their past. And that teleportation took her to the war times that she had experienced when she was young. So as a family, you don't just lose them once, you see them slipping away piece by piece. So this chapter, this personal chapter of my life was really painful, but it brought me a profound lesson. And that was, as humans, we really don't like change. As humans, we actually would prefer to know that there's guaranteed trouble over the fact that there could be trouble or not. So the way that we learn to navigate that is much more important. That gives us and builds us resilience. So we are much stronger than we give ourselves credit for. So the life keeps throwing curveballs like Alzheimer's, career shifts, pandemics and wars. And the truth is, change is something that not only happens to us, it also happens within us. So we are transformed by those experiences and those challenges that we face, even when we don't see it at first or think that we can pull through. So it's easy to look at somebody on stage and say like, hey, they got it all together, they are in a leadership position, and they have it all figured out. Trust me, no. So every leap, every challenge, and every failure, or any painful goodbyes you have, those are the moments that will shape you, shape also your career, even when they are personal. So they will define who we will become. So when my shift focused from my professional life, from my career to caregiving, I didn't know that I was strong enough for it. And when I returned to work, to my normal profession, my professional life, all the ups and downs, had a different perspective. So my perspective shift after the personal challenges. So it was also very evident that I was working in the right company at the time. I had immense support around me. My team rallied around me to keep me up and running. And sometimes the best healer in personal situations can be the space to have the sense of normal life around you when the personal life is not so normal. So I would like to kind of share certain things that I found very useful throughout these experiences. So first of all, we all know that it's not linear. So our career progress is never linear. So you won't go to A, B, and C. You have different ups and downs. And you have those moments that are fundamentally shifting you. So what I didn't realize when I was experiencing those changes is that I have a certain amount of experience. I am at a certain point in my journey. And those changes and shifts will shape you. But the perspective you take will actually show you which direction you will take. So perspective is everything. So be extremely careful when you look at your career, when you look at the technology that you're using, and you look at the opportunities around you on how do you talk to people or yourself. Is your perspective negative or positive? How do you speak about yourself or people around you, or the career opportunities you have? So remember, it's very human to have certain thought loops, assumptions, like we can tell ourselves, I could never, or in my family we would never. And those are very human, but they slowly become your reality. So learn to challenge those loops, and that allows you to shift your perspective. I truly love the quote about not believing everything your mind tells you, because your mind is a wonderful tool, but you need to train it. So it has a tendency to tell you things that are not always rooted in reality. So they stem from also generations back. Survival instincts, learned behaviors, enforced thinking patterns, and yes, think about imposter syndrome. Yes, it's a thinking pattern that you can either enforce or you can decide to tell yourself something else. So before we wrap up, so I would like to go through certain key lessons that I found useful throughout my career. And they boil down to certain words. So they boil down to words like perspective, pace, knowing when to rest, trust, and knowing and articulating your value. So let's start with perspective. Like we spoke, the way that you explain your world and the world around you will become your reality. So if you tell yourself, I could never, trust me, you can't. If you tell yourself, I will find a way, you will. So be very mindful about the internal and external speech. And how do you see the world? Think about your biggest problem today. Is it actually a problem or is it an opportunity? Pace. So learn to also think slow. So when you're in business, if you're forced to make, and even personal life, if you're forced to make a decision and you notice that there's a need for urgency for some reason, we need to have a decision now. Lean towards saying no, because typically when there's a lot of urgency, specifically when there's money involved, the benefit is not on your side. So fast decisions rarely are to your advantage. Trust. What about trust? Having your team, having your business. Trust people, but verify that you're talking about the same thing. So make sure you're all looking at the same problem, solving the same issue. You're working towards the same goal. And of course, the fact that how do people communicate around you? And also, you are allowed to build your own dream team. So you need to shape your team, and you need to learn how people communicate. And rest, and I have to say this is not something I'm very strong at, is allow yourself to bend, but don't break. So take your time to also rest. So be very clear about what rest is. It shouldn't be something that you have to earn. It is fundamental human need, and it will make you better. It will make you more resilient. So it took me about 40 years to learn that it's something that we truly need. So rest is what keeps you resilient. And then we get to self-worth. So know your value. What are you bringing to the table inside your business, inside your personal life, each and every day? So can you quantify what you're doing in a skill set way? So I would encourage you to list all the tasks that you're doing day in and day out. And then summarize those tasks into core 3 capabilities. What are those? So if you can't name them right now, that's okay, but you should even try. So for example, for me, that means I have 3 skill sets. One of them is I'm an excellent problem solver. I have a high sense of service and ownership. So I have certain superpowers. And I have also learned how to make business critical decisions in a frugal and fundamentally most efficient way. So finally ask yourself, where are you right now? Where are you going? And what am I learning next? And what are the things that I'm missing that I can get there? So now that we come to the end of this session, so I am challenging you to embrace the lifelong learning mindset. So live boldly, as tomorrow isn't guaranteed, as you know it's not. So don't stop when you reach a certain point in your career or life stage. So we don't know what the future holds, but one thing is certain, and that is that learning allows us to adapt and carry through whatever comes our way. So that brings us to the end. I thank you for your patience and time, and I will see you soon. I will be around for the whole day. Thank you.